All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, February 11th, and this is our February edition of Caffe Digitale. I'm here with Ms. Bernie Curtis, our district data administrator, who kind of runs all the back-end stuff for iPass and iParent and iStudent, along with some parents, and Ms. Miriam Moran, associate principal from Nipmuc Regional High School. So thank you all for coming today. It's good to see you. So Bernie, if you could, we just want to kind of start off with like a kind of a quick overview of what iPass is, what iParent is, what's accessible, and some other things that you want to talk about.
Okay, well, good morning. Thank you for coming. iPass is our student database system that in the system it houses biographical information, report cards, transcripts, schedules, discipline, health, staff, students, which in turn helps us keep track of all our students and their information. iParent and iStudent is a portal where a parent can log in, see student grades, see their progress report, see MCAS scores, SRI scores. Once they're posted to the website, I bring them into iPass. Attendance, schedules, which is nice when a parent can see a student's schedule and they can look at it during the school day and they'll know exactly what class that their child is in. This helps out a lot from students leaving their musical instruments home, forgetting their clothes at PPE. Parents will look and say, oh, the bag's here, I need to take it to school. So just trying to give you an overview of what you will be able to see.
So Bernie, just kind of start really basic, like how does a parent get access to iParent?
So let's start by doing that. Basic way to get access is you go to your school website, which is www.mursd.org. And when the website comes up, right on the main screen, there is a link.
It was down earlier, so let's see if it's back up again. Oh, looks like it's coming.
Nice.
There we go.
So when you come up to the main screen, there is a parent-student link right at the top. And if you click on For Parents, there should be, click on the iParent folder. And we have a link for an iParent introduction letter, iParent user guide, an iParent FAQ sheet, iParent account application form, and then the login for iPass iParent login, okay? So to start off this process, you have to have an account, you have to apply for an account. So you would click on the link, iParent account application form. They have reset the application form so that you can create your account for all your children at one time, okay? So you would click on the number of students. There's a box for the number of students. You would click on your number of students, whether you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. God bless you for more.
Yeah.
Okay? So once you click on that number, personal information boxes will appear, okay? So you would have to put in first name, last name, email. Now this is your information. Okay, so you're going to put in your first name, your last name, and your email. Gender.
Oh, there it is. There we go.
Address. So we want you to put in all your address information. This one, it has type home. You can have home and mailing. especially for people that have a PO box. Then you put in your phone number. And this is where you would create your user ID and password. We do not keep track of your user IDs and your passwords. So if you have an issue after logging in and you cannot log into your iParent account, email ipass@mursd.org and just type in a little memo saying, I'm having a difficult time. Can you please reactivate my account?
And does that do it automatically, or do I
No,
have to wait?
that email
Yeah,
comes
no.
within, I will answer you within 24 hours.
Okay.
Usually it's the same day. But that email account is linked to me.
Okay.
Okay, so any issues that you have in regards to iPass, iParent, or iStudent, send the iPass@MURSD an email and I'll take care of it for you. Okay, so after we get down with
So set the user ID for the parent,
user
right?
ID
And the passwords.
and password.
Yeah.
Great. Now we go down and start entering your students. So you enter your primary student. Normally we'd want to start with oldest to youngest. Okay? So you would put your student ID number in. The kids all should know their ID numbers. If you have a question on what their ID number is, call the secretary at school and she'll give you their ID. Or if you have a lunch account, I think that's it.
A hard copy of
Everybody
student
should have,
schedules.
student schedules, if they receive a copy of the
Yeah.
student schedules. Elementary school would not receive a schedule, okay? But the kids, because they go through the lunch lines and they have to plug in their 4-digit number, they all should know what their 4-digit number is. High school students and middle school students have ID cards that their IDs are on. Okay?
And I think it's also on report cards too, right? For elementary school students, if they wanted to
report
do that.
cards, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So you would enter the student ID number, their first name, their last name, their date of birth, and their city of birth. And then you check off student lives with me and the relationship to the student. Now, we only give access to iParent to custodial legal guardians, parents. Okay? So all this information you should know. That's why we have the asterisks are mandatory fields that need to be filled out. If something is not the same as in iPass, it sends us a flag. And then we'd have to check that discrepancy out and call you, and then we would approve your account, okay? But you would do this for all your students. So for all your students at once, you put in their ID number, first name, last name, date of birth, and city of birth. And then you would hit the submit button. After you hit the submit button, it sends me an alert that says you have signed up for an iParent account. And within 24 hours, I will approve that account if I do not have a conflicting statement with your city of birth and iPass is Milford. You put in your city of birth on the application is Worcester. So I would not approve that account. I would call you first for you to verify what their city of birth was.
And do you do all the calling, or would they sometimes get a call from a secretary or something like that from the schools? Or
Sometimes. The middle school secretaries approve iParent accounts. I approve them for the high school and for the elementary levels.
Great. And a parent at any level can request access
A
to
parent at
iStudent?
any level can request.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Very good.
Okay. As the high school and middle school probably see the most out of iParent and iStudent because teachers at that grade level enter course assignments, enter grades. The elementary schools have competency-based report cards. So We do not show any work per se like we do middle school or high school with assignments and grades. Hopefully in the future we will have the
Standard-based report card.
the standard-based report card will be able to put in assignments and grade them as 1, 2, 3, 4. But they're working on that part of the program now, creating that piece.
For what
So
age
hopefully-
level, Brian?
The elementary levels.
Elementary, okay.
Okay. So the high school probably has the broadest base, and the middle school. When we get down to the elementary, because there's no progress report, you can't see assignments. They're limited as to what you can see. Okay, but you can still see attendance, biographical data. They don't have a schedule rotation, but you can see the schedule of their courses and the teachers that teach their courses.
So for parents of elementary students, it's probably best that they contact, if they want like kind of up-to-date information about the child's progress within a term, that they contact the child's teacher or guidance counselor or something
Yes.
like that.
Yes. Whereas middle school and high school, they can see it right there, look at it first, and we teach, as we're teaching parents how to use iParent, we teach the parent to really let the student advocate with their teacher. If they see a discrepancy, we would like the student to go back to their teacher first to discuss that discrepancy before the parent just shoots the teacher off in email. Okay, because we want to get that communication working between the student and the teacher, and then when the student comes home, mom can say to the student, how come you didn't do as well as I thought you were going to do with that assignment? Did you talk to your teacher yet? And the student can either say yes or no, or I did talk to her, this is the reason why. If the student says no, we encourage the parent to say to the student, please go back tomorrow and find out what the issue was, and then tomorrow you can come home and tell me.
Can I ask a general question? So I've heard iPass is kind of like the overall like body of this, right? Then I've heard iStudent and I've heard iParent. Are there two different interfaces with iPass? Are our students checking in on their own, or are they checking in on under me?
No.
Look, because I know I sit down with my kids every 2 weeks and we gather around the computer and we take a look at grades, but I didn't know if our students are logging in through iStudent. I wasn't aware of that.
They're
if they
like,
were.
teachers have accounts.
Okay.
Students have accounts.
Okay.
Parents have accounts. Your account is not linked to your student account.
Oh, okay.
Your student account is not linked to the parent account. Each of you have separate accounts.
Seeing all the same thing.
Seeing
Right.
all,
So at the
of
beginning-
course.
At the beginning
Correct.
of the school year, my 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers, my academic teachers, sit down with their children the first week of school and make sure that every child can get into their iStudent account so that they can check on their own grades and take responsibility, for their own grades. So every academic teacher does that. Not so much the elective teachers, but the academic
Yeah.
teachers do that.
Are we doing anything in classes to do regular check-ins for students? Like, are students encouraged to do regular check-ins? And I'm just speaking from personal experience, and I will be very upfront that I don't think my children are the most responsible people in the world. And I don't mean that, I'm just
No, of
saying
course
that in
not.
general. I don't
Yeah.
mean that in a mean way.
Absolutely.
But I don't think that my kids are just hopping onto iStudent and checking in on their grades. They're checking in on their grades because I'm making them check in on their grades. So I'm wondering if there's anything that the teachers are doing to kind of just make that a way of life, the same way that you would enter an event into your iCal.
Right, here at the middle school, they do on certain occasions, you should check in on, the quiz I just gave, or they'll talk to individual students. But it's a double-edged sword because I have an increasing population of students that are anxious and stressed about everything, and they're checking their iStudent accounts every minute of every day and freaking out that they got a 93 and they didn't get a 95 and their grade is going to go down. So it's a double-edged kind of sword of managing this in a practical way for the students. So we don't want to over-encourage because we're going to be over-encouraged. Those anxious students will get more anxious. We don't want to under-encourage because we do want the students to take responsibility for their own grades. So it's a kind of a balance that the teachers try to find. And it's not a broad brush, it's an individual brush usually for students.
Okay.
And I see a lot of kids. I mean, I don't get a whole lot of emails, but I know I forward emails on to Bernie all the time from students that, either lost access to their account or forget their password or whatever to get their account reactivated. So they're aware of it as a service that they use. And I get the emails from kids at the high school and the middle school. They are aware of it. They know that they should be checking it. And if they don't, they know enough to either email me or to email the ipass@murc.org to kind of regain the access. And
Okay. I appreciate that because I just truly didn't know from a parental perspective whether he was interfacing under my account or they were interfacing under my account or if they had their own separate entry into it. So that's great information. I didn't realize that.
We do encourage, when I have meetings with parents, keep your account separate. Do not give your student your password. They have their accounts. They should be using their accounts and logging in under their account, not your account.
Okay. So I didn't even know that they had an account. My bad.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I didn't even know that they had an account. So, and
not your bad. That's your children's bad.
well,
They should have
so
explained that to you.
my bad for not asking the question, I guess. I never even assumed that they had their own interface. I just felt like it was my job to get them to check in on their work. That's all. I don't mean it in a negative way. I just never asked them a question like, do you do this on your own? Because I thought the only interface was iParent. But then I kept hearing people say iStudent. And I didn't know if iStudent was the same as iParent or if it was separate, and now I know that it's separate.
I mean, and as you can imagine, with the number of students that we have between the middle and high school, keeping one account for students, and then we're doubling that with parents. So we do have a lot of accounts out there, and it is a huge process and undertaking. But in the long run, we have seen marketed positives with this. Especially, I have seen it at the high school level with the teachers, and they talk like this. If there's something wrong, their grade is changed. So the teachers have a chance to make all those changes, as we say, before report cards come.
Right.
So on that end, we see that the interaction there is huge.
Right.
And so
We see that at the middle school level too. The kids
definitely.
are going up to the teachers going, I thought my grade was higher. I thought, and they'll be able to adjust it.
Yeah, and I think it's, as you just pointed out too, Bernie, and it's great self-advocacy skills, because that's what I'm doing with my kids when I sit down and I say, this seems a little bit low. Is that what you were expecting to get? Do you feel like you learned the content, or do you need to go back to your teacher and then encouraging them to go talk to them?
I can't say anything. I have all positives in regard to iStudent and iParent. So
I would agree. And especially and I don't know if I speak for everybody, but I certainly speak for myself, that now that we're an iPad initiative school, a lot of their work is on the iPad, and you don't actually physically see it like you do at the elementary school. So sometimes when I log into iParent, I'm a little shocked because I haven't seen the work coming home, and shocked in a good way, and sometimes shocked in not a good way. But it's like your window into their world when you don't actually have the physical evidence in front of you anymore.
Right. Definitely. Yeah. So we do post report cards at the end of every term. They're under My Documents folder. Every person has a My Documents folder that lives within their iStudent or iParent account. So under that My Documents folder, you will see we publish the report card that afternoon. So if report cards were going out today, we start publishing. We would like to do it all at the end of school, right at 2 o'clock or 2:30 when the kids go out. But between both schools publishing, we have to start about 12 o'clock, just to let you know, because otherwise it takes a long time for it to execute.
It's a process because the computer is generating individual reports
Correct.
for each
And
child
it's
and pulling the
sending it out
grades.
to not only the parent, to the student. So when you have 1,000 kids in one school, so we probably have about 1,700 kids between both schools and 1,700 parents between both schools. It's a lot of execution and it just slows down.
Sure.
So we do start early that day, but they are published. I do have to warn you that sometimes people email me, they're having a difficult time opening up on their device. Okay, I always say, go to your desktop, your laptop. Sometimes the phones will not open up a PDF file. And it's hard to service all devices that are out there. Okay, we operate on Internet Explorer, which works the best to pull off these files. Sometimes you might, if you have a Mac, you might have to download Internet Explorer because it doesn't work on the Mac as well as it does on Internet Explorer. But Mr. Amatrano and Mrs. Moran, they have their Macs, and I guess
Yeah, we
they've been
haven't.
working fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had any issues
No.
with it.
No.
Okay, good.
I think it's more mobile devices that sometimes cause the issue.
So we can't do everything for every device that's out there.
Right.
So I will, just give you fair warning that the phones sometimes will not open up your PDF file.
Great. So, and Ann and Marianne, kind of like, knowing that we have all this kind of information available and it's constantly updated throughout the year, how have you seen it, having the availability of this information to be beneficial with like interacting with kids, if you're interacting with them on an individual basis, or even with parents in terms of like 504 meetings or IAP meetings? How has this been kind of helpful for you both?
So previously, in meeting with kids before everything was available through the rank book view and seeing what was happening in the classes, in order to get a snapshot of a kid, it required an email out to all the teachers in order to pull that information, and you'd get varying amounts of information. Not that iPass holds every ounce of information of what's happening with a student in a classroom, but I know that when I meet with students for any reason, one of the things that I do is I go into their rank book view to quickly say, does everything look good here? Because it's a starter of a conversation with kids. So it's a conversation that I wasn't able to have before without having that direct access, but it takes me 30 seconds to get in, kind of see how the student's progressing. If I feel like there's an area of concern or there's an area to highlight or progress has been made, I can do that very quickly. I know school counselors feel the same way about it. Although there's not progress reports midway through the semesters anymore, now anytime they're meeting with kids, they have that information, which is critically important, I think, in getting to it. So the transparency is wonderful, and to have those things up to date. I think the organization of it, to be able to pull by term, but to then see the overall grade for the year, to talk about whether they're passing or not passing. It's very clear about outstanding assignments down bottom too, so it's organized for my viewing, but also for kid viewing. A lot of the times when I'm meeting with kids, I swing my computer around so that we can look at it together. Kind of, Diane, what you're saying, the processing of it. And it leads to other conversations about self-advocacy. What should they be doing? Cause and effect. What are you doing that's causing these grades? How can we change behaviors? We can talk about effort. How is effort manifesting itself, and what can they be doing? So it's a great way for kids. I know kids at the high school are accessing it all the time. Again, sometimes too much. They need to strike that balance, but they are seeking out their teachers. It takes out the guesswork. I think about when I was in the classroom and the fact that to give kids updates on grades, I'd have to call them all up to my desk and show them what was on my computer, or progress reports would come around and you'd write the grade on their report, their progress reports, and those would get sent home. And so just the efficiency of kids knowing what they have, and but so all this data is there. I mean, it's always about how you use it and what we can do with it, and teaching kids how to use it appropriately and to their benefit. So rather than hyper focusing on did my teacher grade the assignment yet, but rather big snapshots. I mean, it's so transparent as such that it breaks down how teachers grade, what percent goes to homework, what percent goes to classwork, what percent goes to tests and quizzes. All of those things are important too, and those averages are broken apart so kids can see where are they putting in the effort and how are their grades reflecting that, and determine, how they can refocus their efforts to get, a more positive outcome. So it's been wonderful in myself helping students, but I know school counselors and teachers in general, and having those parents be able to see what's there as well. It's not a guessing game anymore. The information's there, and we can work with our students to say how do they use it. And there are some skills that need to be taught there. I know kids don't immediately have those skills to say, how do I self-advocate? How do I go to this teacher? Or how, if I disagree with a grade, what should I do about those things?
And so one of the reasons why I am encouraging that is just to show their teachers that they actually care. That it's not, oh, well,
Yeah.
I got a 60, oh, well. It's like, did I learn the subject matter adequately? Is there anything I can do? Like, what should I be focusing on? Kind of like you said, things are weighted in different percentages. So
Right.
should I be focusing my efforts in a certain area?
Right.
Sorry,
Okay.
go ahead.
Well, in the middle school, we're trying to teach the students to be good students. So it saves me an incredible amount of time because we would get the term report cards. I would have to then go through them, find out who failed anything, then find out why they failed it from the teachers. And now I don't have to do that. I just run reports, and I'm able to meet with all the students that have failed anything and get a plan together. How are we going to fix this? What do you need to do to put? Do you need our help? Do you just need to be more focused? So it's taken a lot of time. I'm able to see many more children on that subject throughout the year than I did in the past. It was really the children that failed 1 or 2 subjects that I would be seeing, rather than now, even if someone has a 75, I'll call them down and look at the grades and see. But it's a very good tool. I think it's open. It's right there for everyone to see. Parents can get more involved in it. Although I still do have some parents that at the end of the year, they're like, well, I didn't get any report cards sent home. So that's a hard one. They're not seeing their children's grades the entire school year.
The other piece at the high school too, we're talking about rank book view, and that's what all the grade stuff is, but the attendance view too is very helpful to talk about patterns and trends for kids, because I think when, they come in late a couple times or leave early a couple times or are absent, they don't see the big picture, and it gives a nice pie chart of absences and what's excused, what's unexcused. You can go back to say, you were tardy these 3 days, look at, you missed the same class these 3 days, how's that impacting how you're feeling when you walk into there and being behind. So again, it's an immense amount of data that's out there, but how are we using it, and how are we teaching kids to use it to analyze their own behaviors to move forward?
It's probably the biggest life skill that we teach in the school system.
Mhm.
And when I don't sit down with children most of the time, because on our end it's really a parent issue, getting your children to school. So when I sit down with the parents, I'm like, your child can't be sick Mondays and Fridays. It's impossible. You can't do that. That's, they're saying they're sick. It's making a long weekend because it's hard to come to school every day. So I'm able to have that conversation with the parent, which is really nice.
But also talking about trends, you have the ability to go to past years.
Mm-hmm.
So even a parent, student, administration, teachers, they can go back. If there's a trend now, they can go back to last year, the year before, to see what's been the progression. So I think that helps out a great deal too, to see where they're struggling, where they're not struggling, what their highs are, what their lows are.
And you can even get as specific as like going back now that they're entering in like the assignments and having the assignment titles. Like if it's say that kids are struggling in English and it's the poetry unit, and you notice that they're struggling with poetry this year and struggling with poetry last year, you can see that kind of trend, and it's good information.
And I have conversations with children all the time about your MCAS scores in English are advanced. You've got a 75 in English. You're not doing a thing in English, or there's a problem that we're not understanding, because you do really well on your MCAS. So you're capable of so much more. So the having the standardized test scores, the SRI, the SMI scores, kind of looking at them, you look, a child's failed 3 subjects and you look at their MCAS scores and they're not getting any services here at school, you can kind of put it together very quickly, like we need to do something right away. So it does work out nicely. It's more efficient.
Yes.
Yeah, I think back to the days where you had to go up to school counseling, dig through the file, find the student's file, pull it out, look at it, and
Well,
put it
even
back in, and now it's
scheduling.
just there.
Scheduling, before we had iPass, I was scheduling through an Excel program. I was writing formulas into every block and scheduling that way, which was crazy. So, now I can just,
Have teachers make recommendations and kids
that's
pick
you.
classes.
Yeah,
and,
we don't have that.
Power of technology.
How
Yes.
long have we been using iPads? Last year.
Since 2008.
But not iParent, iStudent that long.
No.
That was opened up in
3 years ago, we piloted it
Right.
here at the school. Yep. That
Middle
January.
school is, they're teaching the kids how to use their iStudent account. And at that point, we're teaching parents how to use it. Now we're going down into the elementary levels because even though they're limited in what they can see, they can still get on there and see things. We're still going to be publishing report cards. Come next year, the elementary will be going green with report cards. Their report cards will be published.
Which is great.
So we're trying to get everybody on base now so that at the start of next year, it'll be smooth sailing. So that we will be on it district-wide.
Right.
And I think that's really important to get the parents used to that in the elementary level, so that they're not waiting until the end of the year when they haven't received any paper copies or report cards to say, hey, what's going on here? They're used to already going in there and checking for the documents. That's a good thing. So I think we've had a lot of nice questions from parents. Parents, any other questions or anything that you're curious about as far as iParent or iStudent goes?
I just was hoping to learn a little more about just kind of going through. I just want to make sure I'm using everything I can for
After
it.
the session.
I just feel after. I just
After
feel
we're
like,
done here, I'd be
Yeah.
glad to sit down with you.
because I just feel like I'm just seeing the grades. Like it sounds like there's way more on there than I'm maybe not tapping into.
Sure.
the different tabs of information.
You know what I mean?
Yep, and there's also, I did a screencast last year. I worked with Bernie to develop kind of a tutorial walkthrough of what's available, and I think we did it specifically for students. I'm not sure if we did it for parents, but I'll repost that up there too,
Okay.
so that after you talk with Bernie, you're able to kind of
But
get
what-
that as kind of follow-up information.
But what we said before, a student and a parent, they're mirror images.
Yeah.
So you each see the same things. And even on the teachers under assignments, they'll put a link in for their webpage so that when you're in iPass and you're looking at their assignments, you can just click on that link and it brings you right to their webpage where their curriculum is, I believe they post their assignments there. So it's really simplified so that you're not going into 2 or 3 different things.
So Deb, were you kind of talking about what Marianne was talking about, like pie graphs and stuff like that, or like trends and things? Because that interests me as well, but I wouldn't know where to access that either.
I think she's talking about the tabs, what the tabs are at the top and what's available in each of those things, like
or just to
standardized
see.
tasks.
I feel like I just feel like all I know how to get to is
Progress
their
reports.
grades.
Progress reports.
There's a lot
I
of
did
differences
see-
between administrative
Mhm.
views and
Okay.
parent views and even teacher views. So Marianne and I and Anthony and of course Bernie, we can see everything.
Right.
And it's not open to everybody
Oh,
for
okay.
certain reasons, or even, I don't think parents see pie charts in their attendance.
They don't.
That's just us.
Okay.
So the system does have limitations. I think there's only so much push out that a program can do and keep it still effective. So we see a ton of stuff that makes our jobs very easy, whereas the parents kind of don't need to see a pie chart all the time because you know your child. We don't know your child, so.
Yeah, and I find I have like one of each. I have one that my high schooler is very, very in tune and responsible and completely like checking on his own. I've never had to like, and now my
nice.
younger one's a little bit needing a little more, and I'm not as tech savvy, so I'm like, oh shoot, I should probably be checking that more. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I've never had to almost, but I
Right.
feel like now I'm needing to, and I'm just not savvy at it. Like I need to make sure that I'm doing the right. But nonetheless, like when you look at the grades, I was like, oh my gosh, he's doing great. So, do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's helpful. I just
Yeah,
feel
it's a
like
nice
I'm
tool.
maybe not accessing
a really
it
nice
as much
tool.
as I should be or could be.
Well, thank you all very much for coming. I really appreciate it, and look forward to next month's topic, which will be posted on the website very soon. All right, thank you.
Thank you.